Good afternoon to everybody. I hope you can see my screen. I just will make a very short introduction before giving the word to everybody to introduce themselves. Sorry. Okay. I just started from the last one, but was not my intention. Just a moment. I go to the first one. Okay. Okay, this workshop is about openBIM for the energy performance of historical building. It's written in the med area, but truly is for everybody. So the program of the day, first we will introduce each speaker, and then we will go to different subjects, the role of buildingSMART International, what kind of services buildingSMART is supporting, how to design a national roadmap. I will introduce how we did in Italy. And then Lorenzo will speak about the buildingSMART professional certification in Italy. Then again will be me introducing two guidelines that we have produced as IBIMI. And finally, there is the presentation of a practical case within cases within a BIP project with Elena and Filippo. So please just introduce ourselves. I start with me. I am Anna Moreno. I am a researcher, retired researcher that has started IBIMI in 2015, which is a national association of BIM professionals that became a buildingSMART chapter in 2019. Please, Aidan, can you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. Yes, my name is Aidan Mercer, and I'm the marketing director at buildingSMART International.
Okay, Céline.
Hello, my name is Céline Bent. I also work for buildingSMART International as the compliance director, and later I will tell you some things about the standards and solutions that buildingSMART offers and how they can be useful for the energy performance of historical buildings.
Lorenzo.
Hello, I'm Lorenzo Nissim. I'm the Vice President of IBIMI, buildingSMART Italy, and the General Manager. And today I will speak about the professional certification that we are implementing here in Italy, thanks also to buildingSMART International program.
Okay, Elena.
Hello to everybody, I'm Elena Gigliarelli. I'm a senior researcher at CNR, National Council of Research of Italy, which is the main research institution in Italy. And I'm also the coordinator of the BIP project. And I will speak with Filippo about the BIP project and TechSat project.
And hi, I'm Filippo Calcerano, researcher of the same Institute of Elena, and also we work on built heritage in many aspects. And today we'll be speaking about heritage building information modeling and how everything comes together when dealing with the heritage buildings and using new technologies, innovative technologies.
Okay, thank you. Now I leave the word to Aidan. I suggest to close our video so that people that has a poor connection can still see well.
Thank you, Anna. And yeah, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. It's great to be speaking with you today. I'm going to be giving you a very brief overview of how buildingSMART International is made up of various different components. And then, of course, we'll move into some examples of what we're doing. And then we'll hand over to Céline, who'll talk a bit about some of those services applied to this topic. So as I mentioned, my name is Aidan Mercer. I've been at buildingSMART for 4.5 years, and we've really seen a very strong growth in buildingSMART, not only as an organization, but as the fundamentals that we stand for. Advancing. As Anna briefly mentioned, perhaps Dan, you could post a link into the chat for people, but we will be in Rome in just a few months. So 27th to 30th of March this year, we will be at the Auditorium della Tecnica just outside of Rome. And it's a really fantastic opportunity to bring the international community to what we see as a very vibrant Italian market. So hopefully you can join us there. If not, there is actually a hybrid option to attend remotely as well if you're unable to make it. So such is the way with technology now, but we do hope we can see you in person, looking like it will be a fantastic event. Our mission at buildingSMART is to enable the full benefits from digital ways of working in the built asset industry. As an industry body, we are open, neutral, not for profit, and we operate internationally. This is the best diagram that I have in terms of how to explain buildingSMART International and the related chapters and networks that we have. So buildingSMART is essentially the parent body for our chapter network. IBIMI, buildingSMART Italy, is one of our chapters, and we have around 29 chapters now, spanning the globe, with new markets being added all the time. We run 2 summits per year. We'll of course be in Rome in March, but we will be in just outside of Oslo in September. So we're able to span the globe with our physical events, which are an important part of our standards and services making. Supported by our members and our sponsors and our partners, we have special agreements with organizations like CEN and ISO to help support the standards that we make. And then we essentially have 3 core programs: our user program, our standards and solution program, and our compliance program. If we reflect back on what's new and what happened in 2022, well, we appointed a new CEO. Clive Billial joined on the 3rd of January of this year, so that's very exciting. Clive brings a wealth of experience and knowledge, and we look forward to welcoming Clive in Rome at his first buildingSMART event. Céline, who is on the call, joined last year as our compliance director, so it's really nice that that component of our compliance has a full-time resource. We had 3 new chapters approved to be developing chapters. Romania, Morocco, and Portugal all last year joined our growing network. And 2 chapters moved to full chapter status: Hong Kong, US, and I believe even Italy as well. So maybe that was the back end of last year. I forget, Anna, but you also moved to full chapter status, which was fantastic. 3 new board members were appointed, so a bit of change there in our board. We also had new staff in Evandro Alfieri, who is from Rome and joined as our solutions accelerator as a technical resource and support. We have our award program. We had another 21 finalists this last year. And I'll talk a little bit about ISV 4.3 becoming a candidate standard, hoping to go to ballot in February 2023. Further progress with the technical roadmap, which makes all of this possible. And we also have a special thing called the Accelerated Projects, which is underway, which looks at fast tracking some of these standards and services into major organizations. We see these key industry drivers today as the need for data flexibility. So why are people interested in buildingSMART? Because we allow organizations to have flexibility with their data. We don't believe in vendor lock-in or data types that aren't accessible or that can't be archived, or information that will be lost or unable to be stored. We believe that flexibility of data is absolutely critical for the industry moving forward. We also see that industry at large is looking for productivity gains, and this does drive the industry on to find new and improved solutions to deliver against that. However, we do see that standards are the innovator to deliver productivity gains, because without an agreement or a set of interoperability standards, we don't believe that there's an opportunity for organizations to thrive and to find those efficiency gains and to make the industry more productive. And we also see the topic of sustainability, as we well know, is a driving factor now, and will be something clearly. In example, at our summit in Rome, we're looking at ways in which we can apply sustainable practices to make the event more carbon neutral, to reduce food waste and things like that. So already in our organization of certain things, we're seeing how this topic is actually becoming part of our daily dialogue. This was a slide that we used last year, but essentially we believe that looking ahead, there's a wave of adoption coming. So we've been developing a lot of standards over the last few years, but we believe, based on what we see in the market, that there's a huge wave of adoption coming for the related standards and services that we do. And we see this because around the world, there are more IFC and BIM mandates every year. This is just one example. It's not the exhaustive list, but essentially around the world, there are organizations starting to mandate the use of IFC. For example, in Switzerland, the federal railways operator, SBB, demands now that IFC is the core exchange methodology for its projects. Similar for Germany, Latin America, the US, and the list goes on. It would please us greatly if this was every country in the world, because then we would start to see the maturity in the market that IFC is a fantastic way forward for organizations to get better value for their investments. We believe, as I mentioned earlier, that control of your data is very important, and we can only really achieve that if we gain a larger mass of the population. So we believe that this open data policy is critical for governments and enterprises that want to control that digital future a little better. Enabled by openBIM, because these accelerate the digital transformation. You've heard about this digital transformation quite a lot. Just got a message saying my internet connection is unstable. Do let me know if that is the case, somebody. Or I'll continue. Yeah, we believe that these openBIM underpins all the need for the digital transformation and accelerates this. And so we do encourage everyone to get involved. If you're on the outside or on the edges of buildingSMART, please feel free to engage better with buildingSMART, and that would be yeah, fantastic. Sorry if my internet is dropping out. I'm having issues this week. So, well, I'm just looking at how we're structured. So I've talked a little bit about what our core mission is and what we stand for, but we are essentially a set of rooms and steering committees that develop some of these solutions and standards. So we have different domain types like airports, buildings, construction, railway, infrastructure. We have a new room called Sustainable Energy Management. And these rooms have steering committees that develop projects and initiatives within those. We consider these to be industry leaders within our community, and we have a fantastic reach into different markets and different representations, different cultures, and different national considerations that make up the bulk of the work that we do. Here are some of the projects, the current standards project portfolio. So we do encourage people, if they have ideas and concepts, much like this topic we're talking about today, then it is a great opportunity to start the process of making these into actual standards. All of these projects you see here, the current list of projects, essentially came up with an idea that there was a need to solve something, and that is how they got started. And yeah, these are the current list of projects. We have different parts of the BSI process, essentially. You'll see on the left-hand side, these projects are in initiation. So these are just trying to gain industry support for the work that they do. And then in the middle is the development of these. And then, of course, we have the approval phase, which is out for standards voting from our SCT, the technical committees, and of course the external parties such as ISO, that I'll mention shortly. So an example of one of the major standards that we've been working on is IFC 4.3. 4.3 is essentially the domain extension into infrastructure domains. buildingSMART traditionally came from the building industry, but the 4.3 extension now includes linear alignment and infrastructure assets and domains like that. So very impressive what can be done with the IFC schema and extended. This major piece of work, I think it was 5 or 6 internally, and is now with the technical team of the ISO organization to go to BALAS in February 2023. And we hope that by Q3 or Q4 of this year, this IFC 4.3 will become a final international standard, which is a major achievement given all the work and the various stakeholders involved. So we've seen the projects, we've seen how it goes through the approval process, and now I'll just shortly show you some of the international community itself and some of the technical work that goes on. So I mentioned the chapters. If you are interested, we do encourage because this is a fantastic locally, and of course IBIMI and the Italian chapter, as well as all the chapters we see here. These are our current network of chapters. We've had inquiries from new markets such as Brazil and India, and we hope this year to be able to support those organizations in becoming chapters as well, which is very exciting. About 2.5 years ago, there was a major piece of work done, which many of you may have seen, which is the technical roadmap. The short version of the technical roadmap and some of the progress is that we're developing services on top of these standards from that standards library that I mentioned to support end users. And it's really important that these end users find an opportunity to enable openBIM workflows within their environment. So been developing a use case management tool. This is essentially a place to see best practice use cases stored within that. The IFC 4.3 schema, as I mentioned. We have a brand new buildingSMART data dictionary, so augmenting IFC content from classification systems and different types of terms and types that would be applied to your business workflows can be enabled. The technical roadmap is improving open file formats and open source development, as well as information delivery specification, which allows organizations, client organizations, to better define their requirements that helps the industry progress. And then, of course, we've had our long-running standard of the BIM collaboration format, which goes through new and clash detection. All of these services help us develop the need and the drive and the demand. And I'd like to reflect on our awards program of 2022 last year. We will be shortly opening in 2023. There is a sustainability category coming, so I'm hoping that there can be submissions from people looking at the topic of sustainability and energy performance. So this is our projection of the year. 2022, we had 121 submissions, and 62 of those were sent to triage. The awards program is essentially, apologies if my internet is going again, I've got another note saying it's currently unstable. The awards program is a really great opportunity for us to reflect on the work that end users do. And from the original idea of bringing a concept such as energy performance analysis or topics around sustainability, it's important that we demonstrate that leading organizations are delivering this through open standards. So I do hope in the future we can see some output from work like this today. It's absolutely critical that we support it and that we find this initiative and bring it forward. And hopefully in the future, we'll see some projects that reflect the very good work done here today. So with that, I'd like to thank you for this very short update. I hope this sets the the picture for the need for collaboration and working together. And I'm sorry if my internet was going in and out. I just kept getting notes saying my internet's been unstable, but I hope that sets the scene for the rest of the discussion.
Okay, thank you, Aidan. I give the word to Céline for the next speech, so that we try to leave more time to question and answer.
You're on mute, Céline.
Apologies, I asked whether you could see my screen in presentation mode.
No, you can. It seems to be in presentation mode. Exactly. Just looks
Okay.
good.
Okay, excellent. Again, my name is Céline Bent. I am going to tell you something about the standards and solutions of buildingSMART International. These are standards and solutions for interoperability, and I hope that I can illustrate you why these are so important. Bringing back the diagram that Aidan just shared with you, I am responsible for the compliance program here in the bottom right corner. And compliance is basically responsible for making sure that all these standards and solutions of buildingSMART work as expected. And a big part of that is also making sure that people are educated in order to make those solutions work for them. And for that, we provide professional certification, about which you will hear later a bit more. I live in the Netherlands, but not for long anymore. I just bought a house in the south of France. And this is not an historical building. It is a mid-century house built in the 60s. And the current energy performance label of this house is F. And that is bad news because of the energy prices, obviously. And because of in the southwest of France, just like in the rest of the Mediterranean area, the climate is changing. Summers are getting hotter. And I'm not a big fan of air conditioning. What I could do is demolish this house and build something new and according a higher energy label in the same spot as many of the neighbors are doing. But because I want to preserve the architectural qualities of the house, and because I want to limit my environmental footprint as much as I can, I chose to renovate the house. And that means that I have to insulate the walls, the floors, and the roof again. And this is going to be quite a complex project because the insulation cannot be done on the interior, but has to be done on the exterior, which will create some thermal bridges in the building. And in order to do that as accurately as possible, we have asked Trimble to provide a digital scan of the existing house in the form of a 3D point cloud. And this 3D model will be delivered to me in an IFC format. And that is not because I work with buildingSMART, but because this is the usual way this is delivered. And this is very handy because it allows me, but also the coordination of this construction process to use this file as a reference and to detect clashes with the design of the installation or of the installations that are going to be delivered by other parties, electrical installations, etc. This is the way in which IFC files are used, and I'm not sure about the background of the audience, but I assume that most of you are familiar with this use of IFC. But the real value in IFC is not so much in this reference coordination view by using IFC files, but it is really in the automation possibilities that it brings. And to illustrate that to you, I want to show an example of an energy simulation. And I stole these slides from our technical director, and therefore I'm not sure if the properties that you will see are correct properties for an energy simulation, but this is just an example. So if you're going to do a simulation, then you need information. So for the energy performance, you'll need information of the walls, the dimensions, the material, same for the windows, and for the usage of the rooms of this building. And the way I learned to do this type of simulation in architecture school was to fill in a form in a separate energy simulation tool, and I had to look up the different values and properties in order to provide the right input. And the tool would provide me with an energy simulation. And this was quite a laborsome and annoying process. Wouldn't it be handy, as we have already 3D or BIM models for the architecture and for the structural design, to import a 3D model for this simulation? We will need to have the same properties, the same input provided to do the simulation. And the question is, how do you put that in? And this is where the sophistication of IFC comes in. Because IFC is really our agreements on semantics of different objects that comprise a building. So for example, there are international agreements on how you call a wall and how you attach properties to that wall. And if you look at the inputs for this particular energy simulation, you see everything that's written in red comes from IFC, so from these international foundation classes. And obviously, for an energy simulation, you often need a certain national classifications, such as for the material of a wall. In the USA, there are very specific classifications that you use for energy simulations, and I can imagine the same applies to, for example, historical classification of buildings in Italy. So you will need to use those properties, and by using IFC, you can automatically import these classifications into the simulations. Actually, software tools exist that automatically select the right specific inputs that are needed to do such a simulation. And this example comes from a tool that is implemented in a software of Akka in Italy, but there are many others. So this is really helpful, and it should make our lives much easier. So as I said, we need to use all these different classifications, and IFC is only limited. So IFC are really the basic classifications that are agreed internationally. But buildingSMART International has developed a service where all the other existing classifications can be published, such as national classification systems in Italy. And that is done in the buildingSMART data dictionary, and you can access this data dictionary online. And for example, if you type in stair, you can really see all the classifications that fall under stair that are published. For example, here you can see the ITIM 8.0 stair classifications, or the CCI classifications. And if we select one of them, the bottom one, staircase landing, you can even see it's in most of the cases identified to which IFC entity this classification relates. So here you can see that the entity it relates to is the IFC slab, or the properties, the IFC properties that it connects to, such as the construction methods in this case. So by using the BSTD, you can really enrich the data that you use as part of IFC. So again, the IFC are international agreements on semantics in openBIM, but these are really the foundation ones. On top of that, many other standards exist that are necessary to do specific simulations, for example, and both of them are published and connected in the buildingSMART data dictionary. As you might have experienced, there are sometimes problems or issues with IFC files. And the classifications, for example, national classifications, are not always used consistently. And as often software tools or software vendors got the blame for failure in IFC imports or exports, they've requested us, a neutral party, to provide a tool where you can really validate your IFC files and validate the consistent use of other classifications that are published in the BSTD. It's still a beta version, but you can test it yourself by uploading an IFC file, and it will really validate the conformity of this file, both to the IFC specification as well as to the conformity to the BSTD data. Here you see an example of a window property of which the value is validated by the validation service. So we've just seen some examples of how you can use IFC, the buildingSMART data dictionary, and the validation service as part of an energy simulation. But buildingSMART has developed other tools and services that give more possibilities or in interoperability, and make the ways of working within openBIM more easy. And for some reason, these technical people like to use only acronyms for these services. One is called MVD, Model View Definition. That's a way for software vendors to use only a subset of IFC, so not the whole package, which is quite heavy, but only a subset of that is really used by that specific software. UCM, that's a collection of best practices in openBIM, where you, for example, could find a best practice of an energy simulation that we've just seen. IDS is a way to identify the requirements that you need for a specific use case, such as an energy simulation. Then there's the BIM collaboration format. Those are agreements on how you communicate on issues in openBIM. And finally, buildingSMART is also developing several APIs for open common data environments. So with the help of all these different solutions that are offered by buildingSMART International, I'm pretty confident that I can bring the energy label of my house to an A or an A+ level. But as many of you would agree or find yourself in similar situations, energy performance is not the only thing I find relevant in my renovation projects. For example, a very significant part of the environmental impact of a building is in the actual embodied carbon of the materials that are used for the renovation. Other than that, when I move into my new house, I don't want to be completely broke from high cost from this renovation. And then I also hope to move in rather sooner than later. So the time of the construction is also very relevant for me. And on the screen, you see an example of a study of different types of life cycle assessments that you can automate by using IFC. And these life cycle assessments relate to the climate performance, to the cost, and to the local labor hours that are required for the job. And in this simulation, two different design options are compared: a concrete structure and a steel and concrete structure. And as an outcome, you can see that in this particular case, it would be wise to choose for the second option, the combination of steel and concrete, as it has the lowest cost, lowest working hours, and the lowest carbon emissions attached to this. This is possible currently, but this is part of a research paper, so it still requires a lot of work and also a lot of specific input and knowledge. And this is obviously not desirable. And it's due to the complexity of the current state of IFC. And it's really our vision that in the future, by just pressing one button, different algorithm-supported simulations can be done at the same time. And we're working on that already. We're working on simplifying the IFC, and we do that in collaboration with different software vendors. So that's hopefully to come soon. If you'd like to be involved in this, and if you want to learn more, please feel free to reach out to us and become a member. Aidan is the right point of contact for that, or you can have a look on our website. And if you want to know and learn even more, then I really invite you to join our professional certification program, where you can follow different trainings provided by different training providers across the world, and receive really a certificate, an official certificate that is a proof of your capabilities and knowledge of openBIM. Have a look on our website, education.buildingsmart.org. Or for others, you can also register and choose to become a training provider with your organization and deliver trainings and certification as part of our professional certification program. These trainings and certifications are not directly provided by BuildingSMART International, but run by our chapters. And a good example of that is the Italian chapter that is currently implementing the program. And Lorenzo will tell you more about that later. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Céline. It was very clear presentation, and you already enter into the matter of energy efficiency, which is which will come in the last two presentations. And is also a good link for my presentation, because I am going to present the roadmap, the Italian roadmap to become a chapter. So to advise other countries to become chapters, and then Lorenzo will explain the qualification program. So I have to share my screen only that. Sorry, but I need okay. I need first to share and then open. Okay. Okay. You should see my screen now. Okay. I just explain how we did it so that if other countries are interested to start a chapter, they could see some advice or even ask for some help from our chapter. So first of all, we have formalized a learning organization, I like to call in this way, which is a non-profit organization for all the BIM experts. And this was in 2015, and we were only 6 people. Now we are more than 200, so that was just the start, a very small group of people that were committed to promote openBIM in Italy. Then we started to identify the main beneficiary of the digitalization of the building industry. And we got in touch with the public bodies, facilities, and infrastructure owners or managers. Then we did a lot of awareness through workshop, conference, seminars, free lectures, and participation to the main fair of the sector. And then we promoted the buildingSMART international qualification, and Lorenzo will speak about this. And then we organized some thematic working groups with members of the same discipline to understand which were the issues and the solution. And then we develop sometimes even translate guidelines to allow the digital transition in each sector. And in 2019, we became a chapter, and we started to contribute to the international openBIM development, so to the technical room. So in the end, IBIMI has two different SAUL. The first was the professional association recognized by the Italian Ministry for Development. And then when we became the chapter, we are also contributed to the openBIM standards development. This is the increase of our members. We have three kinds of members. We have the individual members, and we have collective, which means the small enterprises, but also university research center. And we have some main stakeholders, which now are mainly the road company and the railroad company. Here you see some of our collective partners. On the left, you see many university and research center. In the middle, there are more enterprises and also some social network for the promoting the knowledge. And then we have many software houses. You see the main like Autodesk, the ACA software and Graphics software, but there are many others that are more specific. And then on we have also many other big companies, big and small companies. So what is our role? We try to identify through our members what their needs are, and we involved in a national working group, and with the idea to involve them into the international working groups, where the consensus is promoted through all the chapters. And then after this process, we have some candidate standards, as already Céline and Aidan explained. So in the end, we have some standards that that can be used, and so we produce some guidelines in order to make them more easily understood also by non-expert people. We are distributed in all Italy, and we also open a territorial delegation in Morocco, because they contact us in order to become the first chapter in Africa. And as a matter of fact, they already applied. In fact, you have seen in Aidan's slide that is one of the chapter information. And we have also the idea to increase our network also through signing agreements with other associations. For instance, there is the one for seismic engineering, or there is the one related to building automation, or to our national electric standard body. And besides, there are the international member of buildingSMART, like ACA Software, Geodata, Politecnico in Milano, and Bosch. So we try always to increase our network and find ways of collaborating instead of competing. And so how we are organized? We have a national council, and we, together with our main stakeholders, we define the strategies that then are implemented through 4 different programs. The programs are the events, standards, qualification, and public funds. The event program, we organize online workshops like today. We are now preparing some workshop to introduce all our members into the summit that will be held in March in Rome. We participate to all main fairs, and usually we have we are invited to organize conference within these fairs. And then again, this is a really unique event for us. It's the first time that buildingSMART meets in Italy. And as there are now 30 chapters, I think that next time I will be not working anymore in buildingSMART. So for me, at least, it's my unique opportunity. If you want to register, this is a link, but we will provide also other information. So let's speak about our standard program. These are the guidelines that we have developed, and they are free downloadable from our website. Some are only in Italian, but mainly they are both in Italian and in English. And I think that there are some very important, which is this bridge for bridge and viaduct, the blockchain, and also the qualification for BIM professional. And then we have also these other guidelines, and two of these are the one that I am going to introduce later. Here is the link to the guidelines that you can freely download. The qualification program, Lorenzo will speak more about this, but the main point is that what we did was translate into Italian the body of knowledge for the qualification of buildingSMART. We invited the training organization to accredit as training center for buildingSMART, and we developed the body of knowledge for the use of BIM of energy efficiency, and we help other countries to start this process, the roadmap implementation, by organizing courses in other countries. For instance, in Morocco, we produce we are providing the courses in French so that they can use within their country. Public funds is the program that I manage personally, and we are members of this ARISE project for the recognition of micro competencies, and we participated to other two proposals. One is for the Italian roadmap for qualified workforce, and another one is a project on the management through BIM of touristic area in developing countries, as in Tunisia and Morocco were partners of this project. We are waiting for the results of the evaluation. And as I said, we support the developing chapter. We were very happy to be to support the My African competition. We participated to their workshop, and as I said, we promoted the individual qualification. And we are also part of one master in sustainable development, and we have involved them into the med area. So there is beneficial interrelationship between us and them. So thank you for listening. This again is the registration to the event in Rome. As Aidan said, you can either be in presence or even be online. And if you register online, you can look at the registration also in the months after. And they're really very, very interesting and open your mind, and is really more a training than just a meeting. So it's not a conference, but it is really a place where you work. And as I usually to say, is a learning community. Okay, with this I finish. I will leave all the question and answer in the end. So if you have anything, please just keep it in mind, and we will answer later. Now I leave the word to Lorenzo.
Yes, thank you. I'll share my screen. Please confirm you can see that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's okay.
Thank you. So I will speak a little bit about the professional certification that we are implementing here in Italy. So I will have, I will explain our vision and how we are trying to help the industry to get all this knowledge that is needed for digitalization. And then briefly, I will also explain what will be a future step for us. We already talked about this. I mean, IBIMI is an association that from one side, it's a buildingSMART chapter. So that's really good value for us because we can collaborate with this amazing international community, and we have the opportunity to represent the standard. And in the case of professional certification, we can represent and be the Italian interface for this activity, and this is amazing. On the other side, we are also an association that is officially representing the new BIM professionals in front of the state. And so we have some, sometimes our choices are limited in some case. In Italy, we are lucky enough because we also have some national regulation about BIM professionals. So I have to be honest. I mean, it wasn't easy to find the right way to get all these different things to work together. But in the end, we succeed in this. Starting from what was our goal, that basically to lead the Italian industry through this transformation from, let's say, traditional way to design, build, and manage the build asset to a new way, so more digital. Of course, BIM is at the core of this transformation. As you could see in the past speech, there are a lot of acronyms, a lot of concepts. It's not an easy word, at least not yet. But anyway, when there is innovation, there is always something new to understand, something new to do, and so the training, it's basically what really today is needed to transform the industry. I mean, technologically, there are so many amazing software. buildingSMART already is providing so many good solutions for interoperability. So the industry today could really work collaboratively together. What is missing today probably is it's the knowledge and the ability, the skills, competence. So this is our goal. So we thought that first of all we need to guide the professionals saying what should be their training path, how they can really develop a new competence and what competencies they need. Because if I'm not a BIM expert, I don't really know what should I understand, what should I be able to do. So we really work hard to find a way that could take the professional to consider some good option for their own training. Then, of course, we needed to standardize and provide some good training. Again, we are not providing training because this is not our job. We are a standard organization, so we and this, when I say we, I say BuildingSMART International. We're discussing what could be the best way to train people. So once we agree about that, we develop some documentation, and this is actually what then we give to the training provider, because that's their job, and we work together with them and do these good quality training courses. But this is not all. I mean, this is only knowledge, maybe some skills as well, but good professionals need to have experience. And so this was another piece of our puzzle. And at the end of this, of course, certification. So something that can be shown by the BIM professionals to guarantee their quality. So this was our vision. We developed some guidelines and built actually a website that could help going through this path. Basically, this is our home page. As you can see, this is a road that takes time, and our role is just to give some good advice on how to go ahead with the right step. So I will not go through the details, but so the self-assessment test can, thanks to some information that we ask, lead to some straightforward indication to what could be the next step in terms of training. This is depending from the profile of the professional, what are their generic skills, and what are the goals, because each one has his own idea about careers and so on. So at the end of this, we can give some advice on what will be the kind of training that the professionals should take. And so this is basically the learning outcome that that training should provide, that a course should provide. And then for each of these learning outcome, we have a list of trainers that can provide a good training on that. So basically, our idea is that all people need a first training, just to give a generic understanding of what BIM is, to understand all the acronyms, so to build like the foundation of his own knowledge and skills. Above that, depending again from what are the goals, there will be different options, and we are working on each of these careers, each of these specialization, and of course the topic of sustainability, energy performance should be part of each of these specialties, but could be one standalone specialization, and we are working also on this. But again, I now want to show what is the framework we are building. Again, we are working together with training providers. We are not a training provider. What we provide them, it's a set of guidelines, indications, and documents that help to build a good course. We also, as part of BuildingSMART, can provide an examination platform, so we can test at the end if the students are really, if they really did get that knowledge and competence. And then, as I said, that's not enough for us. The other step will be the experience. And so we also develop a job portal to help company, organization, clients, and professionals to get in contact with each other. And this will be, again, sort out by the specialization we were talking about. This is something coming from our regulation at the international level. I'm part of the European working group that is discussing this, how should be the framework for professionals. And so this is another of our piece. And then in the end, we have the certification that, again, something that we manage here in Italy as a part of the international program. And we start this strategy maybe less than 2 years ago. Our results for now, it's we have 12 training provider partner in this program here in Italy, and we reached around 500 individual qualification foundations. So I'm talking about the basic, the foundation training. And what next? So I said, as I said, we developed this strategy. We already running the individual foundation, individual qualification foundation, and we are launching in the next weeks the specialization of BIM specialist. That actually is the professional who is authoring the models. And in the nearly future, we will launch also coordinator and manager, and this will be already some international new specialization roles that just during these days is discussed at the international level within BuildingSMART. Just to give you brief insight of what is the work we are doing. Everything done in BuildingSMART is always together with the industry. So the starting point is always a working group representing the stakeholders. So in Italy, we opened this working group with many of our training providers, software houses, universities. And so together with them, we start to say, okay, what BIM authors should know and what should be able to do, generally speaking. Then, of course, we will have different domains and some other things to take care. But anyway, we discussed this. then we said, okay, we all agree that a BIM authors has to know this. Okay, but what is the main reference? Where is the standard we are referencing, or what? I mean, who is saying this? And so we also developed a list of content, so people could really learn that knowledge. Then we start to discuss this at the international level. We still have to do this, but we also align our way to describe this thing with the BuildingSMART, with the international format, let's say. And then we develop the exam, the way we could test them if the BIM authors is really able to do what we said in the learning outcome framework. And then we prepare all the documentation, so to manage the process and to get straight and clear agreement with our partners. And then we just finish, we ask some external revision, so we were sure that what we did is something that is understandable outside and also about good quality. So what we thought, and this will be my last slide, is that from the next month we will start with the exam, and so a BIM author, after he did his own training with a training provider that we can suggest, he will have to sit an online quiz. Then he will choose, will say what kind of domain is the part, so architectural, structural, map, infrastructure, and then he will get some complex tasks or I mean some assignments on actually altering a model with this specific organization of information, using these specific standards, and providing so a final output that we will check. And then after that, we will ask the student to sit an oral exam. So we'll ask about maybe something went wrong in the two first exam. And after that, we will guarantee that BIM author is able to altering model, and he really knows about interoperability, how to use all the standards that we mentioned before, and that is able to provide some deliverable. And that's what we are doing now. As I said, in the future we'll be coordinator and manager, and other profiles will follow for sure, because it's there are many professionals in the BIM world. And that's it from me.
Okay, thank you, Lorenzo. So Lorenzo provided an overview on what is the way how to ensure that we have the right professionals within our country, and so that we can really implement openBIM and digitalization. I think you need, okay, just stop sharing. Okay, so now I have my second presentation, which is on the guidelines that we have developed within our working group. the working group were composed by universities or researchers, but also companies and standards experts. Okay, that will be very brief, and then if you are interested, you can download the guidelines and also look to some presentation, longer presentation. So what is the problem? I like to start in this way because I also looking at Céline presentation that she is doing what usually are different professionals do. We are in Europe, we speak about the use of renewable energies, but also on energy efficient technologies. So there are many technologies. You should involve experts that know how to design, how to realize, install, manage, maintain, dispose, and also to manage the digital asset. So it means that when you receive the digital design of the refurbished building, you need someone that keeps it updated. So all these technology belong usually to different people because, of course, there is a person that knows all these technologies and from the design to disposal. Besides, there are many disciplines like acoustic, building equipment, energy demand, environmental impact, fire, indoor air quality, lighting. Again, these are different domains, and usually you have different experts. So why openBIM is used for? Because here in this example we see here we have this is a real building which was in my company at Enea. And so you start from a point of cloud and then you obtain the 3D model. If you use openBIM, you can exchange the IFC file and to provide this file, for instance, to the map engineer that can organize the conditioning plant. And as well, you can share with someone expert in photovoltaic plants, or even green wall, or expert of build envelope. And if you are using IFC, even if each one has used the different software, you can federate the model, and so you can then see if there is any interference, and then you can get the report to obtain the authorization. Again, this is possible today if you use IFC, because you can share the model and everyone takes only the information he needs to perform his work. So the first guideline was related to which information needs to be exchanged, when, why, and among whom. So it has been considered all the life cycle of a building, from the design to the maintenance, user maintenance, operational maintenance. And for each phase, the people that needs information are identified, and also which information they need. Again, you can download the guideline both in Italian and in English. Then we develop a second guideline that is related to the historical building. Why it's related to historical building? Because the historical building lives forever, while very often the documents do not last forever. If they are on paper, they get lost, they are not updated, they are stored in different places. And if they are digital, but if they are not in openBIM format, you can lose them anyway, because maybe if you want to view the model after 10 years, the software is not anymore updated, and probably you are unable to read. So that's why IFC is also important, not only for exchange information, but also for storing data. For historical building, this is really essential. Again, you can download the guideline. I think that online there is only the Italian one, but we also produce the English version. So if you are interested, you can email me and I will provide with the right link. So we use one model. Why it's important to have the model, even if it's only for refurbishment, maybe only for insulating the roof or the walls. It's important because you can use the same model to, for instance, for the adjustment of planning regulation, to solve architectural barriers, to do feasibility of works, because usually these, especially in Italy, these buildings are in areas that are all historical buildings, and so probably you have not enough space to have a building site, a traditional building site. So it's better if you can have this information so that you can study the situation before you start the work. Then you have health and safety requirements. Usually these buildings are not at all safe, so you need to make some adjustment. And then you have also the historical building requirements and respect of local regulation. And if you have this model, you can share with the different people and in different cases. So again, that's why it's important. And then it's important also because as Céline showed, you can really increase the energy performance of a building acting on different technologies, and also with the insulation or building automation or changing the windows. And you can simulate the different interventions and evaluate the cost and the comfort. So what you do is you start with the digital relief, then you add energy data related to the walls and windows, ceiling, and so on. Then you can use a software to make the energy model. As Céline said, it's not straightforward to use the data from the model into an energy software, but buildingSMART, within buildingSMART, there is a group that is working on the model view definition for the energy simulation. So you can evaluate the different scenario and then decide what will give you the best return of the investment. Why BIM methodology is better than the traditional one? Because in the traditional process, we usually lose information from one stage to another. You see, these are where you lose information, because usually you have the design made by an architect, then it is given to a constructor, construct, and then when it's during the handover, it releases the building. Usually, it doesn't provide all the information that were used to construct or install the different plants. And so when you need to do the refurbishment, you need to start from the scratch and find all the information that were missing. While in the BIM methodology, as you start from the BIM model since the beginning, all the information that you collect during the life cycle can be linked to the BIM model through different, even different documents, even the PDF images or technical schema, so that they are always available for anybody in the future. And for historical building, the time can be even centuries. So that's the importance of using standards that can be read even after 100 years. Again, this is to show how the information increase during the lifetime of the building, and how we can, through BIM, collect this information and just show this, which represents the traditional schema, where at each stage you have different people that collect the information on a different format in different places. While with BIM, you have a model and you add all the information during the lifetime. As we saw through the previous presentation, IFC is the exchange for data file of the model, but there are other standards for the exchange of other information. And here is what has already been said. So there is not only IFC standard, but there are other standards that are built by buildingSMART. Is model view definition, information delivery manual, collaboration format, international framework for dictionary, and buildingSMART data dictionary. Again, we have heard many times about the life cycle cost, and we know that the cost of the building is very high, but it's very high also the operational management. And it has been demonstrated that if you can use the BIM model for managing your asset, you can decrease the cost even of 30%. So that's why it's important, because it's not a very high cost compared to the realization, but it's for much, much longer time. And for a historical building, it's forever. So if you make a small mistakes into the design, you have a very high cost during all the life of the building. And this is another way to see it. So what we are saying that with BIM, you can discuss with all the experts during the preliminary design. So you move into the beginning all the changes that usually are made in the traditional process during the execution. And of course, if you do during the execution, you have a very high cost, because you need sometimes to remake the work, you need to stop and the building site and start later. And many times you have a legal dispute because controversial ideas. This is very well known as McLamy curve. McLamy is the president of buildingSMART, And so all the community has very clear in mind these two shapes. You see, when you are in the beginning, the new variation is suitable with the low cost, while when you are in execution, the cost increase very much, and any variation is really almost impossible. And what this means, you will find this in the guidelines that we have identified for each actor of the building process, which were the actors, which information they need to exchange. So these are representing the exchange of information. We have done this for each of the stage. And so what this underlines that what is important that all these people discuss about the preliminary design here in the beginning. Now we have spoke a lot about the 3D model, but during the use of the building, the 3D model becomes only the container for all the information that need to be accessible to the owner or to the facility manager in order to have to keep under control the cost. Again, this is the same curve as before. So this represents the database that is linked to the building, and so that cover this drop of information in this curve. This main is the main concept that in the beginning is very important the geometry and very little the data. During the maintenance, the data are much more important than geometry. So we when Lorenzo said that there are other professional figures that we will develop, because there are others that are needed later in the process, not only BIM specialist or BIM coordinator. This again is just one row of a big table that you will find in the guideline that represents a way to make decision, because again, for historical building, usually you do not have a trustful architectural project. And if it exists, you need to make sure that it's equal to the real building. Very often during the centuries they made some change, and very often they are not recorded. So if it exists, you need to ensure that it's right. If does not exist, we recommend laser scanner, photogrammetric analysis, and so on. And the purpose is to obtain geometric data and other information on the construction elements and materials present in the building. The creation of point of cloud allows a more accurate and secure verification of geometric data. And we know that these data are then important for the evaluation of the cost, for instance, for the envelope insulation or for the change of windows. In all this, I just give an insight of another activity that we are running, that is that usually, at least in Italy, but I know that also usually in Europe is so, that we have very many small enterprises working in this field. And for them, the qualification or certification, it's an high cost, and usually they do not look for certification. But at the same time, in some cases, especially in the operational management, you need only to ensure that the company has the capacity of performing specific tasks. And so we have developed a project where we have a platform that will allow the different workers or designers to demonstrate that they have specific competence to achieve specific tasks. And this is the link to the RISE website, where we are already publishing some reports, and we will develop this platform. So these I just go very fast. Again, as for the RISE project that we have developed another body of knowledge which is related which is specific for BIM and energy efficient. Is not yet ready. We are still reviewing it, but I hope that in a few months it will be available for anybody as the other qualification that we are already running. Okay, I prefer to stop here. What is important is to understand that we really need to do something if we want that the digital revolution of the building industry take place. The traditional building industry is very costly, is not very effective, and is not environmental friendly. So we need to change. And everybody agrees that we need to change because of climate change, because of the raise of the cost of energy. But to do that, each of us has to change. And when it comes to change ourselves, it's normal that there is an attempt to keep the things how they are now. And I can tell you that I fight every day with workers that are refurbishing my house, historical house in Naples, because they are used to do that activity in the same way since 10, 20 years, and they don't want to change. But I think that now people is more ready to change. So here you will be able to, I think, to download also the presentation. Anyway, these are some links to longer presentation of these guidelines if you are interested, and there are also other interesting presentation that I am going to suggest you. So this is that. We have a LinkedIn, we have Twitter, Facebook, and so you can reach us in different ways. And please, I suggest you to participate to the summit. So I am going to end with my presentation, and I give the floor to Elena and Filippo. Elena, you are mute.
Yes, we are trying to share the presentation.
Can you see us and listen to us?
We can listen to us and say that it's not yet ready.
Wait, maybe it wasn't.
Okay, we can see your laptop. Okay.
Now okay.
Yes.
Going to this one, maybe. No, maybe this one. I'm using another device. So okay, it's
You seeing everything?
Okay, it's okay. You can go. Yes.
Okay, first of all, thank you, Anna, for your kind invitation and also for have organized this very stimulating and useful webinar. Then, according to the scheduled program, we will speak about the B project and the Texas project and how they address the issue of energy efficiency of the built heritage in an innovation way through a process. Ecco, vedi che aspetta. Questo come si va indietro?
Sorry, because the presentation is going. Yeah. Okay. I can switch
okay.
when you talk. So.
It's going by itself and in innovative ways through a process based on a strong digitalization of analysis, design, and decision support tools, fostering instrument to achieve final support. The methodology was tested in building of historic and artistic value in 7 Mediterranean countries. Okay, just a few words about the institution in which we belong, the National Research Council, CNR, that is the largest public research institution in Italy, the only one under the research ministry performing multidisciplinary activities. It is organized in institutes of research grouped in different technical and scientific field of expertise. In particular, the Institute of Heritage Science, ESPC, conducts heritage-based and heritage-inspired interdisciplinary research to foster innovation related to all the aspects of outstanding tangible and intangible cultural heritage, from protection to preservation to sustainable management, enhancement, and immersive experience. With its 7 branches, has a vast geographical coverage in Italy. The institute is actually involved in collaboration with university and participate in research consortia and develop programs both at national and international level, and has an active role in the implementation and management of social science research infrastructure, being involved in IRIS, European Research Infrastructure in Heritage Sciences, and in DARIA, Digital Research Infrastructure of the Arts and Humanities, where I cover the role of virtual competence head. This is the staff of the built heritage. This is growing. Is growing up and up, and I'm happy to have also Alsa Moreno as a research associate. Our group works in developing and applying digital methodologies and technologies to the knowledge and documentation of historic buildings, paying particular attention to the analysis of the building techniques, but also the acquisition of information related to the entire cycle of the buildings. These are the main area of intervention of the laboratory, ranging from diagnostic and protection, analysis to conservation process knowledge management, but also energy and environmental improvement and museum and archaeological site design. The main topics we will talk about the first part of B project are the definition of the energy efficiency and built heritage context, the challenge of the project, the Italian case study, and the main results in the project, and a quick overview of our work at the urban scale. So let's start with a quick overview of the big project, in particular on the role that built cultural heritage can play in making the Green Deal a success by investing in innovation into the greening and circularity of the sector, and by learning from creative traditional knowledge how to be resource energy efficiency by sourcing locally, as highlighted also by the European Heritage Green Paper. The project was financed by the program ENI CBC MED, the largest cross-border cooperation initiative, CBC, implemented under the European Neighborhood Instrument, whose objectives are the consolidation of neighborhood relationship by enhancing a social and an economic development, also throughout environmental challenges, which is one of the priorities of the program and of the BIM project. The consortium is made up of 8 partners out of 7 countries: Italy, Cyprus, Lebanon, Palestine, Egypt, and Jordan. In this way, we could test this emerging technology in 8 different Mediterranean countries to demonstrate its scalability to the entire building stock of the Med area. Our project tackles 5 main issues and challenges. The late model is the energy efficiency of the historic and public heritage by the use of strong digitalization of design and decision support tools, which is the link between fighting climate change and protecting the cultural and natural heritage. It is only recently that the Climate Heritage Network, one of the most important networks out of cultural heritage from an environmental point of view, released its European Heritage Green Paper to assess the role that heritage has or should have in relation to the European Green Deal. And now we are a member of this important network. We became member. And it was only in 2003 that European Commission made its first call for research proposal to study the impact of climate change on cultural heritage. The potential for this type of study, however, is very high, especially in Europe, with a flourishing research project on this integration, historic and really articulated in the direction of a risk assessment, and more recently also in terms of adaptation and mitigation. The European group strengthening the cultural heritage resilience for climate change that was established in January 2021 presented a report very important for us. In this report, there is a specific chapter devoted to research and innovation, and what are the research needs for basic and applied research in the future. The report underlines the need to carry out more in-depth studies on the behavior of historical materials and to invest in study based on modeling and simulation in order to introduce more modeling simulation tools and how the material behave in times of climate change. The report underlined the need to invest in study on the compatibility of that adaptation measure, also with cultural heritage guidelines, looking at how innovative materials behave by the way of modeling and simulation tools. So why the choice of BIM? Most of the previous panelists have explained so well the motivation, the choice of BIM. In our idea, BIM is the acronym of Building Information Modeling, and it is based on the creation and updating of an information system, combine geometrical and semantic information, associating the 3D representation of the building elements with a dynamic and implementable database. This heritage conservation is based on a multidisciplinary decision-making process that required a structured organization of historical, diagnostic, and documentation information. A BIM process of historical building, heritage BIM, combined in a centralized system the management and production of information for design and maintenance activities, ensuring the permanence, the consultation, the implementation of the data, and they so are accessible by experts from different disciplines. Then we come to the building performance simulation. They allow the study and optimization of energy performance in an interrelated way by the way of the creation of a behavioral model of historical manufacture and all these components: the envelope, the technical building system, the occupant behavior. Like BIM, building performance simulation involves a simulative approach, but in a different way. Numerical simulation can be attributed to the category of non-destructive analysis and are particularly interesting tools to support the conservation process of historical buildings. The fourth theme is that of interoperability between the two simulation environments of HBIM and BPS. Although HBIM model already contains a large part of the data required for simulation and interoperability, saving time and cost by reducing the risk of errors, the data transfer is still not very efficient, especially on historical buildings. With the BIM consortium, we perform a feasibility study on the interoperability between the different software. Each partner has chosen a different combination depending on the context of the country, on the regulation, the regulation point of view, and the knowledge and the skill that they have. This diagram represents the workflow of the BIM project. It underlines the centrality of the HBIM platform for a series of surveys, analysis, and simulations that are necessary to develop design solutions. The interoperability relies on a semi-automatic approach, which, thanks to the possibility of human intervention, are more reliable than the fully automated ones. Lastly, the project provides a very interesting tool that is to the public administration, a powerful financial support for the sensitive retrofit of public historical buildings, the energy performance contracting, that involve energy service companies, they are private companies, and based on the energy and cost saving obtained by redeveloping buildings. The Italian case study in Rome, that is Palazzo Maffei Borghese, a listed building in the historic and Renaissance center of Rome. It is owned by the state private agency, and currently it is headquartered of the Legal Council of State Attorney's Office. The first activities regarded, as usual, the historical and architectural analysis, essential for the knowledge of the building. Also, it is also a starting point for other in-depth analysis as energy, environment, and conservation state. The geometrical survey of the building was created by the integrating different technologies. For outdoors, we use the laser scanner and photogrammetry. And for the indoors, the SLAM technology, simultaneous localization and mapping, that is particularly suitable for the survey of interiors of a large building structure due to the rapidity of the acquisition. The general conservation state analysis was based on a photogrammetric survey to obtain accurate information of the current state of the facade surfaces. And here you can see the representation in thematic maps. The knowledge of the managed construction elements was fundamental for the design of the energy improvement interventions. Then we performed a set of energy and environmental analysis. Infrared thermography combined with the study of traditional construction materials was used to get support and validate the overall understanding of the construction systems and to support sequences analysis like heat flux meter analysis that made possible to identify in deep the thermophysical characteristics of the envelope. Moreover, for an optimized planning of the positioning of the measurement points, we performed an additional simulation of the sunshine hours of the building during the winter months. At the same time, we also carried out the analysis for monitoring and characterized the indoor microclimate and provided useful data for the calibration of the building dynamic simulation model. The next step was the creation of the energy efficiency heritage building information model that is a centralized repository to optimize the management of the large amount of information deriving from the analysis and simulation processes. This video shows the BIM to BPS process applied to the energy environmental improvement of the building. The BIM model is exported into ISC open format, verified, and then imported into the simulation software, where the final post-processing was performed. The calculation method chosen for the Italian case study was dynamic, a choice that is very important in case of historical building in Mediterranean areas, as it allows to take into account the complex behavior of a built heritage, for example, the massive behavior, and better address summer conditions in general. The software chosen is Thermolog, biological software, as it was one of the first in Italy to fully integrate the simplified dynamic calculation method. The results of this analysis and simulation led to the definition of a performance-based design workflow that consider the main criteria of compatibility, efficiency, economic, and environmental sustainability in order to obtain the most efficient retrofit solutions. For all the proposed solutions, we applied this sequence of evaluation criteria that you can read on the left. One of the main solutions chosen, I will not show all the solutions that we performed, is the bioclimate, but I think this is very, is one of the main important solutions we choose, is the bioclimatic photovoltaic buffer space created in the internal cloister of the building that involves also the creation of a shading system with natural ventilation and renewable energy system generation, distribution and use. This solution was first evaluated from technical and financial point of view in this first simple model. This is the solution anti-operant. The intervention is fully removable, does not alter permanently the building. The idea is to create a buffer space to enhance the seasonal behavior of the building and use these resulting areas that now are abandoned. Then we developed a deepened verifying its compatibility with the historical value of the building and with the existing constituent material. The roof recall the historical tradition vault system with 4 laminated wooden arches, structural elements more compatible with historic architectural complex, while making the restoration work easily recognizable. The design choice of laminated wood was made based on the experience done by the designer in seismic area as the bedstand of Cyprus. The project now is closing, is close to this end. No, it has been closed on December. Obtained an important achievement, just to mention some of the most important. We have developed the APC energy performance contracting as a methodology that address one of the main issues related to the renovation of public buildings, the difficulty to access to the funds. Thanks to the public administrations, building owners and managers will now have a support in APC based on a renovation project, facilitating the involvement of ESCOs in the process and the implementation of interventions. We have defined experimental integrated interdisciplinary workflow that, by the use of heritage building information model and building performance simulation methodology, can lead step by step technicians, building owners and managers to the design, simulate and evaluate complex intervention in historical buildings. The estimation of the design solution have not only reached, but even exceeded the performance indicators that the program requires in terms of carbon dioxide avoided, kilowatt hour of renewables produced and consumed. We test this workflow in 9 public story buildings in 7 different Mediterranean countries with different regulation, climate contents, historical building typologies, and market maturity, thus demonstrating the reliability and flexibility of the process into the most diverse contexts. BIM project achieved the first BIM-based implementation of this kind and the first BIM execution plan in Jordan, and it is streamlined adoption of energy efficiency regulation on the AEC sector in Lebanon. The preprints of the project guideline to apply the workflow were published in Zenodo. That is an open asset repository developed by the European Open App program, where preprints, software, documents, articles can be shared and acquired with the digital object identifier, DOI, with which they are testable and citable. And we have recently published the guidelines that will act as a handbook supporting stakeholders throughout the analysis and design steps in progressive level of detail, according to the data available in the building, its complexity and the resources available. Also, we useful insight tested and contextualized in our 9 case studies. Public administration of Mediterranean Sea are already making use of the result from the region of Valencia to the municipality of Nicosia. We will share the link to these guidelines. The project experts were involved in the expert team defining BIM to BPS interoperability and HBIM process at national and international levels with the BIM-based international and IPSA involvement. So just a few words to close this first part of the presentation. Cultural heritage is threatened by climate change in an expected speed and scale. That means that we need to invest and protect cultural heritage from climate change, but at the same time, cultural heritage offers solution and inspiration to solve the climate crisis. For example, by the use of traditional construction materials and by readapting traditional buildings to modern needs. What we need is to cooperate in climate research in many different disciplines, but also we need to support by policy level with decision-making levels. Projects like BIP are indispensable drivers for the implementation, thanks to the technology transfer and capacity building potentials that upskill professionals. Also, it is important to establish incentives on national, regional, and local level to invest in cultural heritage, monetary and fiscal policies, as well as enhance scale-up projects with multidisciplinary teams to make use of green material, tools, and digital technology, like digital twins, embracing also social innovations. Now, I give the floor to Filippo.
Yeah, hi. I would like to add some other insights on the activity of the lab that involves the study of bioclimatic design also at the urban scale through BIM supported intervention. So in principle, all intervention on the urban fabric must implement multiscalar decision support approach. And this is even more crucial for built heritage. And the main urban design factor affecting microclimate for climate mitigation and adaptation purposes are the urban geometry, the urban materials, natural elements like vegetation and water. And one example we are working on with our colleagues of the University of Ferrara is the project TechStart, dealing with the environmental study of the passive potential of transition spaces. We could say the liminal spaces of historic buildings, such as porticos, logge, courtyards, patios, galleries. And there is a lot of building information modeling approach also in the study, as it helps us to manage how we collect, store, and then use this analysis, how we develop the model and simulate it, all to propose environmental and energy improvement strategies whose effects are measurable in terms of efficiency, cost, and effects on the urban context. The case study is the city center of Ferrara with a very specific historical morphology based on courtyards, and Palazzo Costabili, one of Biagio Rossetti's major 16th century works, was chosen as the pilot case study because it was built as part of the renovation of the medieval aggregate of Ferrara, and it features a wide variety of typological and spatial configuration of liminal spaces, of which the urban fabric of Ferrara is particularly rich. The BIM-based interoperability approach here helped us first drafting the shared knowledge framework among experts, then planning the data flow, and then developing the whole process through trial and error from data collection, data export, file check, and so on. And here we can see the model in Rhinoceros after the first import from GIS edited data. Then we acquired the point cloud within this first model, and then up to the development of the simplified model for simulation purposes in this case. And here you can see how the model of the building and its context was developed, integrating GIS, photogrammetry, and land surveys. Environmental monitoring of key spaces were carried out and then used as a starting point for the subsequent microclimate composite fluid dynamics simulation that are used to evaluate intervention proposals for the energy and environmental improvement of liminal spaces, to scale also these findings to the surrounding urban fabric. And all the steps were integrated in what you are seeing. So this semi-automatic pipeline, according to specific algorithms using visual programming language, which allowed a dialogue between different applications, reducing parallel modeling steps and the risk of manual error that also Anna was speaking before. So, and this up to the final representation of data analyzed. And yeah, that's was more quick. So just to give you a quick overview of this other project.
Thank you for
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Filippo and Elena. I think that it's really evident the amount of work that is behind these projects. And what I am trying now to set up a new working group within IBIMI, because really there is a lot of activity going on in university and research center on historical building, and I think it's very good to share this knowledge, so the methodology to develop this knowledge within an international community. So we are now looking for sponsors so that we can found some young researchers in doing this work. So now we are open for questions. I don't know how it works, if they can, if anyone can speak, if people can write in the chat. I don't know, Dan, are you? Can you tell me what?
Yeah, it's possible to write in the chat, or if anyone raises their hand, I can allow them to talk if they wish to do that.
Okay, but I do not see any questions. So I would like to ask Céline if what she thinks about the work we have been presenting.
Extremely valuable. Hopefully many others will follow using the tools and the methodologies that were presented today.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if any Elena, Filippo, if you have any questions for Céline or about buildingSMART or about the organization in Rome.
Well, it seems it's really interesting how everybody is striving towards interoperability. That, for example, is a keyword also used by Céline. So there is really a need of understanding the processes, the needs of each stakeholder, and then try to accommodate for a workflow and also for new expertise that can allow to put into practice what we would like to do, and maybe we are not still quite there in terms of doing. So I think that although we talked about different things, but there is something in common, and this big push towards what we are trying to achieve in different ways. So I think that may be something that it's interesting.
And also let me say that you, as IBIMI, are doing a great work to disseminate this culture, which is a really different culture, a way of thinking different, and that wasn't done before. So this is a really great work that you are doing.
Thank you, Elena. I think what I like about Building Smart community, that is really a learning community, because as you said, Filippo, there is the share of knowledge among different domains. So something that is solved in the maybe in the rail domain can be used in the cultural heritage and vice versa, because they have many historical stations, and so it's important for them also to know what we are doing. So in Rome, we will have really the opportunity to share this knowledge. We expect several hundreds of people of 30 countries. So I hope that if anybody from the Med area is interested, they will join. Anyway, we are happy to help if anybody wants to start a new chapter somewhere, as we already did with Morocco. And so I think we can close. I don't know, Lorenzo, do you want to tell something?
Sorry, just a question. Do you know if there is a chapter in Cyprus?
No, they don't.
Because
neither
we have
not Cyprus, not even
we know
Greece.
We are in contact with a group. They're very clever, very active. They're also in the Daria communities. Maybe we can propose if they are interested, yeah. And so we will make you take you in contact with them. We will yes. Propose. I think that it's a great opportunity for Cyprus.
Yes, we will be pleased to help them. I think the more we share, the better it is. And as I said, in the end, everybody will use the standards without even knowing that they are using standards. It's like when we use our credit cards, wherever we go into the world, we can pay in whichever currency, and we don't care about the standards that are behind the credit card. And the same will happen in the future for the building industry, but we need to share really internationally. Lorenzo, do you want to add anything?
No, I thank the invitation. I enjoyed the presentation, and I don't have much to add. Thank you.
Okay, Céline, any last word?
Yeah, well, just to give everybody hope for a better future. A lot of the things that you've seen here today are possible because of digitalization of the construction industry. However, there's still quite a large degree of complexity and labor that will go into working correctly with all these tools for digitalization. And what we're working towards as an international community is making sure that labor will be reduced significantly, and the data and the algorithms behind that will do a lot of that laborsome work for us going forward. And I think that is something to look forward to, especially if it makes our buildings more sustainable.
Yeah. Thank you all, and we'll meet in Rome.
Sure.
Okay, sure. We are the first. Okay, thank you again.
Bye.
Thank you to all. Thank you for the great presentation. It was very interesting to be in this community. Thank you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.